Marvel just did something so bold, so genuinely insane, that I had to sit down. They took the most famous superhero face of the last 20 years, the man who started everything, the man you watched die, and they handed that face to the bad guy, on purpose, as the plan. Same actor, same face you cried over in that dark theater. New name, Dr. Doom. That is not a casting announcement. That is a magic trick. And like every great trick, the secret is hiding in plain sight. There is one detail in that announcement that almost everybody scrolled right past. And once I show it to you, you will not be able to unsee it. Stay to the end. I will hand it to you myself. Because this is not a recap. This is the job I have been waiting my whole career to pull. The full Dr. Doom theory. And I would bet the entire vault on it. I'm Rook. We steal the story, you keep the hours. Last job, I promised you this exact heist, and I told you to bring snacks. I hope you did. Lock the door, pull up a chair. Let me walk you through the smartest mark Marvel has ever lined up. The 3 theories about what they are really doing, and the one piece nobody on your timeline has put together yet. Let's crack it. First, you need to understand who we are dealing with. Because if your only reference for a Marvel villain is a guy chasing a glowing rock or a guy punching the sky, throw it out. Doom does not play that game. Doom owns the game. Victor Von Doom. Born in a tiny, made-up country called Latveria, which is basically Eastern Europe by way of a fairy tale. His mother was a witch who sold her soul and lost it to a literal devil. So, before this man can even grow a beard, his whole origin is grief and a debt he fully intends to collect. Keep that word in your pocket, debt. It pays off later. Victor grows up into the rarest thing in fiction, a genius who is also a sorcerer. Sit with that. In this universe, the smart guys do science. The weird guys do magic. Doom refuses to pick. He builds time machines and he trades favors with demons in the same afternoon, before lunch. He is Iron Man and Doctor Strange welded into one man who thinks both of them are amateurs. Then comes the wound that makes the legend. In college, he built a machine to contact the dead and rescue his mother's soul. His rival warns him the math is off. Doom does not listen, because Doom does not listen. And the machine detonates in his face, scars him. And here's the detail that explains this entire character. The injury is small. Some versions say it is a single scratch. But Victor cannot tolerate one flaw on himself. So he travels to a hidden monastery, forges a mask, and presses the metal onto his face while it is still glowing hot. He scars himself worse, on purpose, rather than be seen as less than perfect. There he is, the whole man, in one move. Pride so total it becomes a superpower. He would rather wear a mask of pain forever than admit he made a single mistake. Will the movie change things up here? Probably. You don't hide Robert Downey Jr. behind a mask the whole movie, do you? And the rival who warned him about the math? Reed Richards. Mr. Fantastic, leader of the Fantastic Four, the smartest man in every room, which is the one thing on Earth Doom cannot forgive. Their feud is the oldest grudge in Marvel, and it was never about a city or a stone. It is 2 of the greatest minds ever born, and one of them cannot sleep knowing the other is half a step ahead. Petty? Completely. So is most of Shakespeare. That's why it works. So Victor goes home, takes Latveria, and crowns himself king. Now he has diplomatic immunity. Think about that. The most arrogant man alive, and you legally cannot arrest him, because he runs his own country. He builds it into a flawless little kingdom. No crime, no poverty, also no freedom, because everything in it belongs to Doom. He talks about himself in the third person. He keeps robot duplicates of himself called Doombots. So half the time a hero thinks he finally won, and he actually just beat a stunt double, while the real Doom sits in a castle, swirling a glass of wine, watching, laughing. That is the mark. King, scientist, sorcerer, control freak, grieving son. The single pettiest genius ever put on a page. The greatest villain Marvel ever printed. And for over 60 years, they refused to spend him. Now, before we go further, let me kill the comparison you are already making. You're thinking, big villain. Sure, we've had big villains. Thanos, the Kang tease. How is this any different? Here is how. Thanos wanted balance. He chased his rocks, he snapped his fingers, and deep down he believed he was making a hard but merciful choice. Kang wanted conquest. Rule everything, every timeline, just because he could. Both of them, at the end of the day, wanted a thing. Doom does not want a thing. Doom wants everything. And he wants it because he is bone-deep convinced that he is the only one qualified to hold it. That is the part that should put a chill in you. Doom is not a lunatic cackling on a throne. Doom thinks he is the hero. He looks at a broken universe full of gods who keep letting it burn, and he thinks, with total sincerity, I could do this better. And honestly, it is irresponsible of me not to. He would save the entire world. He would just expect the world to thank him by kneeling. A villain who wants power is a problem you can punch. A villain who is convinced he is right, who might even be a little bit correct, who is smarter than everyone in the room and has the receipts to prove it, that is a different animal entirely. You cannot argue him down. In his head, he won the argument before you opened your mouth, and the resume backs it up. In the comics, this is a man who has stolen the power of cosmic beings older than time itself. He stood toe-to-toe with Galactus, the devourer of worlds, and walked away breathing. He outbargained the actual devil. He once seized the power of a near omnipotent god and, for one moment, fixed the whole world, healed every disease, ended every war, and then lost it and shrugged. Because to him, that was not a victory. It was a demonstration, a flex. Look what I can do that the rest of you never could. So when I tell you the multiverse is about to collapse, and one man is going to steal what is left of it, understand this. He is the only character in all of fiction who has already done it. Marvel is not reaching. They are hiring the one guy with the exact right resume. Okay, here is where the heist begins. For years, the plan was somebody else. The big bad of this whole era was supposed to be Kang the Conqueror, a villain who exists in every universe at once, so you do not fight one of him, you fight infinite versions. Great idea on paper. Genuinely scary. They built a movie around him and started planting him everywhere. And then, behind the scenes, the wheels came off. The plan collapsed. Overnight, Marvel had an entire multiverse saga aimed at a villain they could no longer use. That is a hole the size of a continent. Years of setup, a finish line, and suddenly, nobody to put on it. Most studios panic. Marvel made the boldest call I have ever watched a studio make. They walked up to the most valuable face they own, the face from that cave back in 2008, the face that built the entire house, and they said, come back. Not as the hero, come back as the man who burns the house down. When they announced it, the room did not clap politely. The room came apart, because everyone understood in their gut that this is either the greatest idea Marvel has ever had or the most expensive mistake in their history, and there is almost no middle ground. So let me do what I do best. 3 theories on the table. One of them is almost certainly true. The other 2 are traps. I will walk you through each, and then I will bet the coin. Theory 1. The easy read. It is a multiverse variant. A Tony Stark from another reality who never became Iron Man. He became Doom. Clean, delicious. We already know the multiverse is real here. We have met alternate versions of heroes. So the pitch is simple. Somewhere out there is a Tony who lost everyone he loved and never learned the lesson. A Tony with no team to keep him honest. A Tony who decided that if he's the smartest man alive, he should simply be in charge of all of it. Shave the goatee, weld on the mask, and you have got Doom wearing a face we adore. And the gut punch sells itself. Picture the surviving heroes seeing that face again, seeing Tony, and slowly realizing it is not him. It is the worst possible version of him, and it wants them dead. You could twist that knife for 3 straight hours. But here is my problem with Theory 1. It is too obvious. It shrinks the most reality-shaking villain in Marvel history down to a footnote in Iron Man's diary. Doom is nobody's evil twin, and I think Marvel knows it. Theory 2, the cynical read. It means nothing. It is a stunt to save the box office. Let me be straight with you, because a crew does not lie to itself. There is a version of this where it is empty. The old plan died, ticket sales got shaky, and Marvel reached for the one sure thing they have left. People will buy a ticket to see this actor. They always have. So you drop him into the most important chair in the building, you call him Doom, and you let 20 years of nostalgia do the heavy lifting. And look, I respect a good con. If that is all this is, it is an expensive, beautiful con. But a studio that just clawed out of one disaster does not bet its entire future on a gimmick with nothing underneath it. There is too much money on this table for it to be only a magic trick. Which brings us to the real job. If you are still with me, you are the real crew. Because this next part is the piece almost nobody has put together. And it is the reason I called this a heist instead of a casting rumor. Theory 3, the one I would bet the vault on. And to explain it, I have to tell you about the biggest score in comic book history. A story called Secret Wars. Stay close, because everything we have talked about pays off right here. The multiverse is not infinite and safe. It is rotting. Universes are drifting into each other and colliding, and when two of them touch, both are annihilated. The word for those collisions is incursions. And here's the part that should raise the hair on your arm. They have already said that word on screen, quietly, in the Doctor Strange sequel. They told you the rules of the ending years ago, and you scrolled right past it. That is Marvel picking the lock in front of your face. So in the comic, reality is dying, every universe smashing into the next, all of creation burning down to nothing. And in the middle of the apocalypse, one man does the unthinkable. While the gods and the heroes fail to stop it, Doom steals the very power that is destroying everything. And instead of dying with the rest of them, he uses it to grab the shattered pieces of every dead universe and stitch them into one patchwork planet. He names it Battleworld, and he sits on top of it as a literal god. God Emperor Doom. The man who could not survive a single scar on his face, who could never stand being second to Reed Richards, finally takes the only promotion big enough for his ego. He becomes God. He remakes all of reality in his own image, and he dares anyone left alive to even remember it was ever different. Now connect the dots with me, because they are all on the board. Marvel has spent this whole era cracking the multiverse open. Branching timelines, alternate worlds, incursions. They reached through holes in reality and dragged back old faces from old movies. They introduced the Fantastic Four, who are not just another super team. They are the bridge, because in the comics, they come from a different corner of everything, and they are Doom's oldest enemies on Earth. Every thread, the broken timelines, the returning ghosts, the family from another universe, all of it is being braided toward one event. Reality collapsing, and one man, patient as a spider, ready to steal what is left. That is the heist. Doom is not after a rock or a throne or a country. Doom is going to steal existence itself and crown himself king of the wreckage. It is the largest target anyone in this entire saga has ever gone after, and it is, by a mile, the most Doom thing he could possibly do. So why the Tony Stark face? Now, finally, it means something. Here is my read. This whole multiverse saga, underneath the spectacle, has secretly been a story about grief, about people who lost the heroes that held the world together and have been wandering ever since without them. And the cruelest, smartest way to end a story about grief is to make the audience and the characters stare down the one ghost they never got over. To put the final villain in the face of the man who saved them, the man they buried, the man they still miss. You take the thing the audience loves most, and you aim it back at them. That is not stunt casting. That is the knife. Doom rebuilding reality, enthroned on the bones of a dead multiverse, looking down at the last surviving heroes with the face of Tony Stark. The face that started all of it. Now the thing about to end all of it. The universe healing you and breaking your heart in the very same shot. If that is the play, then this actor is not coming back to sell tickets. He is coming back to be the emotional bomb at the center of the whole thing. And I would bet the coin that is exactly what they are doing. Let me show you how it lands, because there are 2 movies coming, and they have names. The first is Avengers Doomsday, and that title is carrying a piano. Doomsday, the Day of Doom. This is the gathering. This is where the multiverse war stops being a tease and becomes the main event. Expect a cast list longer than your arm. Expect faces you were sure were gone for good, dragged back through the cracks in reality. Heroes from films older than some of you watching. Because when universes collide, everyone is on the board at once, and Doom is the storm they are all running from. And then the second one, Secret Wars. The big score, the everything on the table finale where, if they follow the comic even halfway, reality is already gone. Battleworld is real, and our heroes wake up in a stitched-together world ruled by a god wearing a hero's face. And they will have to do the one thing this franchise has always done best. Pull off a heist against a god, to steal reality back. You see now why I told you to bring snacks? Now, because I am an honest thief, here is the other side of the coin. I could be wrong. They could soften it, make Doom a straight multiverse warlord with no Tony connection, and just enjoy the fireworks. They could fumble the landing the way big finales sometimes do, and believe me, if they do, we will have words. The pieces are all on the table. The dealer can still play them badly. That is the risk on every job. But every breadcrumb they have dropped points at one play. Grief, godhood, and a stolen reality, all behind a familiar mask. And here is the part that should give you chills. Dr. Doom has been sitting in Marvel's vault for over 60 years. The greatest villain they own, and they never once spent him. Not in the first era, not in the second. They waited. They waited until they had a multiverse to threaten, a family of rivals to point at him, a hole in their plans the size of a saga, and the single most valuable face on the planet free to wear his mask. They did not pull Doom out because they panicked. They pulled him out because, for the first time ever, the target was finally big enough to deserve him. 60 years of patience for one perfect job. So, that open loop I promised you at the top, the one detail everybody scrolled past. Here it is. It is not the actor, it is the directors. The same filmmakers who made you sit in that theater and watch Tony Stark die are the ones being brought back to do this. The exact hands that buried him are the hands bringing his face back to end the world. That is not a coincidence, crew. That is the same people running the same con on your heart, twice, and grinning while they do it. Once you see that, the whole thing snaps into focus. This was never random. It is the most deliberate emotional heist a studio has ever attempted. That is the take. The hero's face on the villain's body is not a gimmick, and it is not an accident. It is the vault door on the entire saga. And Doom is the only thief in this universe arrogant enough, brilliant enough, and patient enough to crack it. All right, you are caught up, and then some. You walked in with a casting headline, you are walking out with the full blueprint. That is a clean job. Now you do some work. Drop your Doom theory in the comments. Is he a Tony variant? The real Victor from another world? Is Marvel about to stick the greatest landing of all time, or trip over their own ambition? Be wrong if you have to. Just be wrong loudly. The best theory wins. And while you're down there, hit subscribe. That is your membership card to the crew, and we pull a job like this every single week. Movies, shows, games, the whole multiverse of it. If it has a story, we will steal it and hand you back the hours. We have also got a board to settle. Last time I put 3 targets up for a vote. The most wanted pick gets cracked next. So if you have not thrown your vote in, do it now. The crew decides where we hit. That is the Doom job, start to finish. 60 years in the vault, one perfect mark, and a face you will never see coming until it is already too late. I'm Rook. We steal the story, you keep the hours. See you on the next job, and hey, keep an eye on your own face. You never know who is going to want to borrow it.